What's up, BAM fans? Back for another week. It is just Jake and I today. We are here for, what is this, episode 8? This is the 8th episode. I can't believe that's gone that quick.
We're out of friends.
We're out of friends. This is it. From here on out, it'll just be returning guests. But we wanted to come at you guys today with just us two to kind of break down the origin story of BAM and now FAM at this point for this year. Kind of give everybody a little bit of a rundown of how we got to where we're at now. It's been a very fast, I guess technically 5 years, but we are going into our fourth year of BAM and our third year, I believe, of being down here at Extra Innings here at Indy South. And the transitions, all of the changes, everything has happened so fast, and I'm still not caught up. I don't even remember half of it.
This will be good for us
to
remember everything as we go.
Do you remember that one time? But I think probably the best place to start, I guess, is we first met in college. Jake and I didn't hang out that much. I think I was too cool for him, so I didn't want him in my social circle. Basically,
like
that's exactly what it was. We met in college at Anderson University and hung out a little bit our freshman and sophomore year or so, and then just kind of went and did our own things. I was wrapped up in athletic training. You were wrapped around Janelle's finger and everything.
Right. Still am.
So he was distracted and everything, and but moved on to kind of our own things. I was, at the time when we first got reintroduced to each other, living in my grandparents' garage at the time, and I checked my Facebook. And Jake and I were friends on Facebook. This was way back before, like, I guess, Instagram. I don't know how long Instagram's been out, but I think all I had at the time was Facebook. So that's how dated this is.
It was cool.
And how old we are. But Jake posted out a post on his Facebook that said, just, looking for someone interested in doing some assistant coaching and for kind of a local travel team. And I don't think I had probably talked to you in like 2.5 years. Yeah. And I commented, I was like, hey man, I'd be interested. Don't know if you remember who I am at all, but do you want to talk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's kind of how it got started. I got hooked up. I was coaching middle school basketball actually while I was doing my student teaching. And one of the dads there had, he was assisting with the travel program that was pretty local in the Muncie area. And they needed a couple of coaches, and I had taken a few years away from the game and just kind of needed some time away to get to where I was, and I was at a place to really want to get back into it, and it worked out. We went into tryouts, and I found out 3 days beforehand that I was coaching, and then Adam was like the day before.
As prepared as possible.
So we went in, and I think every coach who's done it a little bit has experienced this, but we went to tryouts and we were like, our team's going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And talent-wise, we were pretty awful.
Mm-hmm.
Great kids.
How many, I know that we were just brand new into it, and you said you were only like 3 days. Had you known of any of those kids?
I'd never seen any of them play baseball.
Jake taught at Daleville High School, so we're in like the Delaware County area. Daleville is a really small 1A school. How many kids does Daleville have?
Like 400.
Yeah, like 400. Yeah, and so we had a lot of the kids were just kind of from around that area, people that had been introduced to that travel organization in the past. And I was as green could get because I was in the same place as you. I wasn't, as far as, I love baseball, but the most I was involved in it at that point was being a sad Cub fan because I think they were losing about 90 games a year at that point. And that was as involved as I was, but wasn't really into it. I quit after my first year in college, just a crappy bullpen catcher and just focused on school at that point.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely a reintroduction into it. The only thing I knew about travel baseball in Indiana at that time was the names of teams I could remember from when I played about 10 years before that.
Right, and I didn't even know that except for the top couple because I was coming from the Chicago area.
Right.
So I was very new to the area, had no idea about this organization, just was excited to coach. Yeah. So we went into tryouts. Team was we didn't have a lot to choose from. Mm-hmm. Ended up with a really fun group, probably one of the most fun groups we've had. Mm-hmm. Absolutely hilarious group. And fast forward through the season, we just started to kind of get our feet wet and figure it out and realized we wanted to do some things different, realized that there was more out there that we wanted to recruit and we wanted to play at a high level. And we saw some of the teams that we were playing against, and we were competing against teams we shouldn't have been competing against.
Right.
And a lot of it, at that age, this was 13U, was that we were just teaching our guys to do things the right way. So recruited the heck out of that season, and we were going down to our last tournament. We can fast forward through the year because there wasn't great things. I will say this: I have one story to tell from it.
From there, I got 100 of them, but I'm gonna try not to.
There's a lot of really good ones that don't even have to do with baseball, just because the group was so good.
Right.
The one baseball one that I distinctly remember is we were playing early on in the season, and they were like we were in a tie game in the bottom of the last inning. They had runners on second and third with one out in the inning, and we intentionally walked the runner or the hitter, and then pulled our right fielder in because that guy had grounded out to the left side 3 times.
We're facing at this point a very renowned travel organization in the state, well known, lots of teams, and a lot of success. And I remember we're both sitting in our buckets in our uniforms. The coach that wasn't in his uniform, the other team knows it, and he should be in his uniform.
He's the best now.
We're just sitting there, and I think everybody's like, kind of gathering around the field, because when you see a good team like that and a team you've never heard of, as in the travel world, you kind of stop and like, what's going on here? I want to see if this well-known team that everybody kind of wants to beat is going to get beat. And you and I are hooting and hollering like we always are, and you turn to me and you're like, do you want to bring right fielder into the infield? And I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, I haven't done this in years. I want to do that. Let's absolutely do that. Good.
So we do it.
Yeah.
And he hits a ground ball directly to our guy, and it goes right between his legs, and we lose the game.
Right.
And it was one of the happiest and saddest moments as a coach, because we're like, we put him in the right position. We're doing everything we should.
Because we had showed up.
It just doesn't work out sometimes.
It was our first tournament.
It was our first tournament.
Indy Sports Park down here.
Yep.
And we showed up the day before our game and scouted other games. And we had to be the only people that are doing that for 13U travel baseball in the state of, and maybe in the country, that are actually going there and trying to do that. We're trying to pick up on coaches' signs, see their tendencies. And the kid that we shifted on, the 2 games that we had watched with him in it, we noted, and we actually had played one in it with him. We had noticed that he had never hit a ball to right field.
Right.
So let's just.
And he was trying.
He was trying to, and then he hits it right to the guy and boots it.
Yep. So fast forward through that, a lot of ups and downs. We finished 38-32 on the season. Played a lot of games.
Right.
But we were going down to our last tournament. We were going down to Florida. And we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't even understand classifications, and they put us in the AAA major event in Florida, which we did not belong in.
No.
But we're going down, and we drove. My wife was like, 8 months pregnant at the time? She was ready to pop.
She was ready to go. I was worried about her being out in the heat.
Yeah. And we drove straight through the night. We get there, and the coaches' meeting was supposed to be at like 8 a.m., and we rolled in at like 5:30.
Yeah.
And our room wasn't there. We had nothing. So we ended up getting a room, and just all 4 of us.
We had to rent a room for about 4 hours before our next room was over.
And the 4 of us laid across a king bed, like long ways, the opposite way, just so we could all fit, and maybe slept for 30 minutes.
Me, Jake, his wife, and my wife, and your soon-to-be daughter.
Yes.
Janelle's baby. So technically 5 of us.
Technically there were 5 of us.
We're all laying in a king-size bed. You and I are just trying to sleep, and we were the whole time going like, I don't want to go to this coaches meeting.
Oh my gosh.
The setting for this coaches meeting was in an arcade.
Yeah, bowling alley.
Arcade bowling alley attached to a CC's Pizza in Florida. And I was like, I don't want to go to this. We're just going to get the tournament rules. Like, we know what everything's going on.
Right.
But it's not like we were comfortable and in this event. Like,
right. If it was now, I'm not going. I'm not going to that anymore.
But we decided, like, let's tough it out and let's go. And we ended up going, and it was exactly what we thought. Well done. It was exactly kind of what we thought it was going to be. We walk in, it's a bunch of coaches, like I said, in an arcade bowling alley. Pretty nice bowling alley. Pretty nice arcade. Right. It was just an area for the kids, all the kids to meet up and play in between games and stuff like that. And I expected to see some vendors there trying to sell stuff. There's a lot of teams and a lot of age groups, and we saw one vendor there, one table, and they were kind of giving us our tournament packets, giving us our coaches packets, and sort of shoving us over to the side to where these guys were at. And no one were really going over to them. It was about a table this big and 2 guys standing there, and they had just some pamphlets, and they're just kind of standing there quiet. And Jake and I walked over, and I don't remember the other guy's name that was with Mike.
Me either.
Sorry, I don't remember. We met a guy named Mike Sosha, not Mike Sosha of the Angels, but met a guy named Mike that was there kind of promoting this defensive training app that he had helped develop with a couple of his partners, and Ned Yost of the Kansas City Royals. And when I first saw it, the pamphlet made me look like, the little flyer made me think it was Game Changer, because that's kind of the way the app looked. Not like, oh, they're just trying to give us a coupon on Game Changer. But we stopped by because we didn't want to go sit by a bunch of coaches we didn't know, and we just wanted to talk baseball. We stopped by, and they give us kind of the rundown of what this thing is. And do you remember what your first reaction was when you heard about this? Because I remember my jaw hitting the floor going like, why didn't I think of this?
Yeah, I remember thinking that, and then I think it might have been exhaustion and like not caring at that point. Right. But I remember just looking at him and saying like, well, how are you going to market this?
Right.
And asking questions that I had, but probably like that wasn't the right time to ask him or the right way. I probably came across rude of like, how are you going to market this? Right. What's your plan here? Right. But that really led us into that conversation with them of them answering those things and trying to have that discussion of, this needs to get out to all these teams, and you have no plan as to how to do that except this one tournament.
Right. And the idea for the app, for anybody that hasn't heard of it, it's not out right now. It's called Baseball Academics. The idea of the app, it's you select a player on the field, create a profile for that player, and it spits out, kind of randomly generates different defensive situations for you to be tested on. And basically what you do is based on the defensive situation, you select which base you should be throwing the ball to based on the situation. And that was kind of eye-opening to us because we were able to teach our kids in a short-term basis. We had to focus a lot on teaching some of the fundamentals that they really had never been taught before, and then kind of teaching our theories of different situational baseball, where it's supposed to go. And in the short amount of time that we had so much we had to cram into. We only at practices really wanted to focus on the physical things. We had no way of implementing that mental approach. And for me, it was jaw-dropping, going like, why didn't I think of this? Why didn't I think of a way to test kids outside of practice, train their minds? Because out of everything we were doing our best to teach the mental side. But even us, with how important we found it, we were under-teaching it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the app had 126,000 situations in there, so it really marketed. Level 1 was just how many outs and where are the runners. Really simple stuff. Once you got to level 7, it was how many outs, where are the runners, what inning is it, what's the score, what's the runner speed, what's the ball speed, and what's the ball direction.
Right.
So it really marketed from a young kid all the way up into high school, college kid, of having to quickly make those decisions of where to go with the ball. So we were really excited about it.
Yeah.
And stopped by their booth a couple times throughout the week and just kept that conversation rolling. They ended up taking us to dinner, and it was one of a few very expensive dinners that we didn't have to pay for, which was awesome.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, man.
we were pretty much fresh out of college, so that was great. And just kind of got talking about being a team that would essentially, they would brand us, and we would be the Baseball Academics team from the Midwest.
Right.
And we wanted to try it for a year, and so did they, to see what marketing did that bring.
They're based out of Georgia, and I think everybody they were talking to was saying, hey, this is great, you know what I mean? And then they were just first introducing the idea out to people, seeing if anybody would even care, and we jumped on it. I remember most people were like, I think that were walking by the booth, were saying, oh, this is awesome, let us know when it's out.
Right.
And we, being, I guess, eager beavers, were just like, hey, what can we do to be involved? You know what I mean? How can we help you push this? And they liked that. They liked our aggressiveness of, hey, what can we do we want to jump on board as early in the process as possible.
Yeah.
And I think Mike really liked that.
And I think that was one of our first steps as entrepreneurs of really looking back at it and making a decision of, if you don't ask, you don't know the answer, and you might as well go for it. I mean, the worst they could have said was, no, we have a plan and you're not part of it, which is fine. We would have been in the same spot.
Give us your credit card number and we'll buy it.
So, yeah, but taking that step and actually asking those questions and seeing it through, I think we've followed that model a little bit since then, and it's been really cool to see where it's led us.
It's given me the courage to, come up to express ideas. A lot of people, I think, I heard a quote. I'm not sure exactly how it went, but cemeteries are full of ideas that nobody manifested. Yeah, you know what I mean. People just go to the grave with those ideas, and because a lot of times they don't have the confidence to bring those things out. I thank Mike and definitely you and everybody else that were involved in that process for giving us the courage to, and the platform to throw out. They could, because they really could. Mike could have been like, I'm not. We've gotten this far on our own, and everybody is very interested. It could have been just like, we're not. No thanks, man. Just let us know if you want to buy it. But I think that's really helped propel us into the situation that we're in now with how much growth that we have.
Yeah. So fast forward through that tournament. And they decided, we were in an organization that had like 6 teams. We were planning on coming back that next year, and we did.
Did we go over that tournament?
Yeah,
we lost every game.
Every game that tournament. Our team was not
Last
good.
tournament of the year. Great way to end it.
But we recruited it hard. We had a really good team coming in for that next year, and they decided to sponsor our one team. So they paid for some uniforms and did some things for us, not program wide, but just us to start to see how it went. And the next year, I think we went like 46-16 or something. So there was a lot of questions when you have a name going into tournaments like baseball academics.
Who are these people?
Yeah, what is baseball academics? Are you guys all smart? What does that look like? And our players had the app that they were using. It was just the demo version at that point. So we took the app during that off season and we brought it to the ABCA. That year was in Orlando, and we win Best in Show in Orlando, and got to meet a bunch of awesome people, and there was a lot of excitement around it.
Yes.
And that's where it kind of went downhill as a product, because they outsourced the software programming to this group out of India, and there was just a disconnect in getting the correct answers from what you were putting in, and everything started to go wrong.
Right.
So since then, the app has not been
I think
really
it still
functional.
has life, because I think there's going to be people that listen to this. They're going to go, that's a really good idea.
I would love to get it back going.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's great life.
There's just
to
some
it.
steps that need to be taken to get there.
Yeah.
But
in the meantime, we got to go to 2 or 3 events with Ned Yost. Got to know him personally a little bit, and got to watch him order French fries off of a menu that doesn't even have French fries, and have them specially bring out ketchup.
They had to make homemade ketchup
my
because the old school baseball guy he was. He's like, I need French fries with my steak.
Oh my god! He was just this down to earth country guy, really easy to talk to. Gave us some great coaching advice. I actually have the back of my pass as a vendor from ABCA that says just keep running, because they stole all the bases that year.
And then back of my pass says that if Jake gets more than 2 people out, tell him to stop.
Tell him to stop. That's right.
I'll never throw.
He was trying to get us to fight.
One
One of the greatest stories he told when we were with him was about Gerard Dyson. This was the year that the Royals won the series, so it was a cool year to be around him and get to know him. But Gerard Dyson, he wasn't starting for the Royals, but he would always pinch run and stole a ton of bases, one of the fastest guy in the league still. And the Royals were up 3-0 on the Orioles, and he had Zoom shaved into the side of his head. And Adam Jones on the Orioles was yelling pregame across the field to him, telling him to get that off of his head and that he's not that fast and he's going to get thrown out that game. And Adam Jones is like an all-star player.
Adam Jones is the man.
And Gerard Dyson, and Ned said this perfectly described his personality, takes off his hat and shows it to Adam Jones where it says Zoom and says, get used to seeing this because you're about to shave broom into this side of it. We're about to sweep you. And then they did.
Borderline the best trash talk outside of Scottie Pippen saying, hey, the mailman don't deliver on Sundays.
Yeah. There were some choice words that we can't say that he said, Dyson said, but just a cool story. And then he told the story after they won the series that Eric Hosmer went out to a bar in Kansas City and just stood up on the bar and held his credit card up and said, tonight's on me. It was just hanging out with everybody in KC.
I don't think I'll ever be in the situation that I can do that.
No.
Unless I'm at a McDonald's and it's closing and there's no one there. That's about it.
Yeah, never. No. But through getting to know Ned, he come to find out, Ben Zobrist was his son's college roommate for a couple of years. And we started talking hitting approach and started talking Zobrist. And some of what we've developed in our mental training for hitting approach is what Zobrist implemented that Ned had brought to some of their minor league guys based on what Zobrist did.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to watch the Cubs in the playoffs and Zobrist hit because we knew his approach, we knew what he was looking for based on what we had learned, and then our guys could watch it too, knowing that we're trying to do a lot of the same stuff. So a huge blessing for us to have that opportunity to get to know a major league manager and pick his brain on all this. The app didn't go where we were planning on.
Right.
But when we were coming up with, we were halfway through that season, our second season with this organization, and we were a little unhappy because they were mad at us for playing in hard tournaments. They just wanted us to stay local and to essentially trophy hunt.
Right.
And we knew that wasn't good based on the team that we had.
Right, because there's 2 different philosophies to what seems like travel ball is. You can have that kind of local team kind of thing where they're playing with a lot of the kids from the same schools, just staying local and just trying to win some ball games. And then there's that other side where we've seen those big-time elite organizations where they're traveling all over the place. They're kind of the rosters aren't necessarily staying the same year after year after year, and they're recruiting the best players and going out and trying to win massive tournaments. And our biggest thing is we felt like there could be a combination of that.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen that at that point. And even though I think we were doing pretty well in those tournaments, that's not really where they saw us, where they wanted us to do, and that's totally fine, but we had different ideas in mind.
Yeah, we just had a different mindset and a different path that we wanted to go on compared to where they were. So we started discussing that with the two of us, and Josh Barber, who was our third coach at that point, had come over from a team that we had played that first year.
It was actually the team that we had shifted
Yes.
on and had that happen, and he approached us and basically had a conversation with us and talked about maybe joining for. He tried to get us to come coach with him at that organization, and other organizations had reached out to us as well, and we asked him a lot of questions, told him a lot of our ideas, the Hall of Fame room, the mental approach, a lot of the stuff that we'll get into later. And a lot of them were just like, we like the way we're doing it, but we like you guys as coaches and your team. We'd love to have you. And we just kind of said, no, if you want us, you're going to have to come to us kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was also a game that Josh and I got into a shouting match. That's a different story for a different
Yes.
time. It was,
I think we
really
mentioned
fun.
that in one of the episodes.
I think we did,
It's
yeah.
kind of
We
funny.
did, yeah.
But yeah, so we were playing well, and we ended up on a rain delay. And this was towards the latter half of the season, but still early enough to make a decision to make a move.
Trying to figure out what we're going to do next year.
Yeah, we had options to go and coach other places or go back to where we were or do our own thing, and we just weren't happy where we were organizationally. We were with our team. We loved the guys, but we thought that there was more out there. So we were sitting down and we were talking through some of the other opportunities, and I remember just looking at each other and just saying, like, why don't we just start our own thing?
And then immediately looking across the table,
yeah.
like, are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, and it was kind of a joke at first. We laughed, and then we just started thinking about it more and realized that, heck, we were, 25 and 23, something like that, and it was to the point where if we try it and it fails, we're young enough to still recover from it and be okay. And we didn't. I had one kid, and that was it at that point. So it was a time that we had some time to put the effort forth, and we just kind of ran with it.
Yeah, started putting some stuff on paper, started putting some ideas out there, and all purely focused on just the baseball side of it, not knowing at all what we were getting into from the business side of it.
Yeah, neither of us took. You took one business class.
I took one
right?
business class.
I took
and
none.
It was because I had to fill some sort of gap on my on my class list.
Yeah.
Some sort of requirement that I had to do. But other than that, it was all sports medicine type stuff. I had to look up the definitions of the word net revenue and net worth. And I'm just like, okay, so what's the difference between net and not net? I didn't know what a lot of that stuff was, and I think we still are learning a lot of that on the fly.
Always.
But from the beginning, it was just like every decision seemed hard. Even if the baseball side is like, okay, what's our name gonna possibly be? what is colors? We had to try to talk Mike into jumping on board. Obviously, with a new organization, they want to attach their product to a good thing, and they liked us as coaches. But I mean, them and the biggest obstacle we had going into the first year was people were saying, okay, so who are you and why should I come to you?
Right.
And we had to come up with reasons why. I mean, other than, we were very different when we were coaching 13s and 14-year-olds as far as the kind of coaches we were coaching against. We're the only coaches out there wearing uniforms. We're the only coaches, we're the closest in age to any of these kids. We're, 10 and 15 years older than some of these players, younger than their parents. Most teams are coached by parents, are coached by people that have kids on the team, and we were very unique in the sense that we weren't that. And aside from that, a lot of people found that attractive and our enthusiasm towards the game, but we had to find other reasons to want to bring them over. And so we had to put a lot of things down on paper and come up with a plan.
Yeah, well, and there was a little bit of fear going in based on the app because we knew that there's always a chance that the app would fail. So attaching the Baseball Academics name to an organization was putting a lot of pressure on the app.
Yeah.
And after really thinking about it, we had decided that whether the app failed or not, the Baseball Academics name really represented what we wanted to do. We wanted to focus on baseball. We wanted to add an academic aspect to create 6-tool players or make them, really understand the game at a higher level and transition knowledge and do all of those things. And then we were from the Midwest. So we had toyed with other names, including Matadors, and you can figure out why. But
that's my favorite.
That would have been awesome to be the Matadors with our location. But what it really came down to was the logo was basically what the app logo was, just with different colors. Color scheme wise, this was our second choice. Everybody's, but nobody had the same first choice. And nobody in our area were these colors. So we wanted to stand out and be different. And we wanted to be able to show up to a field and people know who we were. And then we started looking at the logo, and there's a ball in the middle of it that has the globe on it. And we really started thinking of, it'd be cool to start our own program regionally, but what would that look like to do it nationally? Down the road of, if this grows and we develop the program we want and we want to go other locations, why don't we call it Baseball Academics Midwest, and then maybe down the line we'll have a Northeast and a Southwest. And so we went that route versus a team name. We wanted it to seem more professional, more prestigious.
I think we bounced around mascots like crazy.
Oh my gosh!
We looked up mascots that started with M, and we find Marlins and Minutemen. I think
the Minutemen.
God, these are all
militia.
Awful. But then we talked about the idea, and that this dream and this idea has definitely grown over the past 4 years of that regional aspect of if we can develop a program that people see as different and that really turns heads and grows quickly. This is something that we could do, Baseball Academics Northeast, Baseball Academics Southwest, and to have really a nationwide reach of players that are all learning the same thing, maybe have never met each other, but are speaking the same language of baseball. And who knows what that leads to down the road. I'm hoping that we go regional and we have teams that are interested in maybe adopting what we're doing next year, kind of closer within that 4-hour range, before we really reach out and do people that are further away. We can test that model out, but I think it worked out better than having even the Matadors, which would have been pretty sweet.
Matadors would have been awesome. So that's kind of how we got there, and we started with 3 teams. We had a 14. No, that would have been a 15-year-old year. 15U. 16U and 12U, and we really wanted the model to where we weren't just trying to get teams to have teams. We wanted teams that were competitive, coached by people that we knew and we knew would do a good job, and that was those 3 groups.
Passionate people that wanted to teach the same approach that we have. Everybody has different opinions of a lot of hitting approach, defensive theories, but when we put our stuff out on paper, it really makes sense. When people read into it, it's if they believe in the program. That's the people I want in front of the kids.
And year 1, we gave a packet and we talked through it, but there were no structured classroom sessions. We were still working out of a high school gym, and a few of our teams were practicing at different places. We were just kind of all over Indianapolis trying to make it work. And we got through that year. There's a little bit more interest, and in the middle of that year, from one of our coaches actually, they introduced us to the current ownership or the previous ownership at Extra Innings. That's where we are now. And they brought us in. They wanted to just talk to us about partnering as a program. So we came into the business meeting with our 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year goals.
Gave them our speech.
Gave them the speech about who we are, what makes us different, why we think we'll grow, how we want to grow, and asked some really good questions in regards to how we could help their business grow and how we could truly partner. We didn't know at the time that they were actually 50% of their ownership was looking to leave. So long story short, we ended up partnering as a program and then essentially purchasing the ownership that was for sale, and bringing all of our teams to now work out at Extra Innings. So that led to 6 teams, and the next year it led to 12 teams. And that was 12 teams was our second year of having actual classroom stuff, but more focused and actual curriculum. We implemented the final exam 2 years ago, and adjusted practice structure a little bit. And then this year on the baseball side, we're at 15. So we've turned a lot of teams away, which I think is important to note because it's not about we can say whatever numbers we want. It's not about numbers of teams for us, and it never will be. We've developed 2 programs of our signature program and our development program. They get the same thing. It doesn't mean development players aren't good by any means. It's just Those are the kids that were really focused on developing them as players. Signature, we're really focused on gaining exposure, and that's more of those high school ages.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on where you're at. But again, there's not a lot of programs that do both. And we want to be the place that you can have a one-stop shop to get all the training that you need and do all of that. So in that time period, there's been a lot of partnerships developed that we can talk through. And then obviously the addition of fast pitch, which we should go into. But that gets you up to date a little bit on the baseball side of where we were and where we got to before we go into where we're going.
And I think we should talk, before we get to where we're going, we follow a lot of pages of groups. I think a lot of people in Indiana know who we are now. I think we've made a name for ourselves. I mean, we're getting some good rankings and some good reviews by big tournament vendors, Perfect Game and Game Day. A lot of those groups know who we are now. But as we're looking to go regionally and really kind of expand, we're going to send this stuff out to other states, Kentucky, Ohio. I follow some pages in Georgia that I'm trying to, implement our ideas to. But the one thing that we do differently from most groups, all groups have physical stuff that they do, even if they are only practicing once or twice a year. They're working on the physical stuff, or they tell you to go get your lessons everywhere else. But I don't think that I know that there's other ones that have sort of a mental training aspect. They talk about some of the stuff that they teach, but the 6-tool player is a thing that we take very seriously. That 6-tool being the mental approach to the game and the mental IQ. And our winter program is surrounded by that. The second half of our winter program, and I think we talked about this in the previous episodes, but in the interest of brevity, I'll try to keep it short. But we have 8 classroom sessions that we do, and each classroom session is dedicated to a certain part of the game, one being our systematic approach to winning, the game within the game, all the things that we focus on outside of, we're not coaching the fundamentals of swings on, when we're coaching bases, we're telling kids what their hitting approach needs to be. We're not telling them to throw their back hip or, move their hands down. We're telling them what they need to do with the baseball, quality outs with quality at bats for your team. We do a base running portion. We do cutoffs and relays, pitching approach, defensive approach to where you're supposed to be. All those kinds of things are implemented, and we focus on those hard for an hour, and then move that into the actual facility part where we try to implement those in a physical fashion.
And that's, I think, the piece that
keeping those together. Yes,
is just because you sit down in the classroom and you teach it for an hour doesn't mean kids are going to be able to implement that.
Right.
And our coaches do a very good job, and part of it is we train on it, but they do a very good job of taking the mental training component and helping players translate from conscious to subconscious what they're doing and how, so that it isn't information overload and it just becomes a part of who they are and how they play. So really diving into how to do that in physical drill form is a huge piece that we do. And one of the big things is I know a lot of programs have like instructors that lead those things, and then they have their coaches for the summer. But our coaches are the ones doing that, because if they're going to go and coach in the summer, we want them to understand the program and know that as well. And essentially that's what they're being evaluated on. We have developed a coaches evaluation system to make sure that our coaches are performing at a high level and doing what they're supposed to. And the other piece we didn't mention is the first, we break it down into 2 semesters for winter training. And the first semester is positional workouts. So we have catchers, corners, middles, outfield, hitting, and base running. And they're 1-hour sessions a week that are taught by coaches within the program. There's other coaches that are present to help facilitate, but that's a full hour of training, or 8 full weeks of training that you get specific to that position rather than just a team practice.
Yeah, and that's what we discovered was that in our first year of doing this was when you get together for team practices, it's great, but you spend so much of the team practice trying to, for 15 minutes, let's separate into positions and try to get positional work. And it's like, how much better can you actually get? And then you're cutting into your time of some of the other stuff you're wanting to do actually as a team, covering bunt coverages and stuff like that. But having that 1 hour devoted to corner infielders, devoted to catchers, devoted to middle infielders, where kids can come in and really get an in-depth look and workout on that 8 weeks in a row. I think that last year we've discovered was almost more beneficial than the team practices. Because last year it was a mess. We had it 1 week where it was doing some positionals, 1 week right after where we were doing team. We're like, we need to split this up because this is a mess right now, having to change every single week. But I'm super impressed with what we're 3 weeks in now, going into our halfway through our first semester, and the level of improvement, even with how crowded it's got in there, with how many bodies we have, it's insane to me.
No, it's...
And the response. I mean, we're posting out videos on a lot of Facebook and Instagram pages of some of the drills we're doing, and where that's getting a lot of ground. Mm-hmm. We've grown a lot on a social platform because of those. And this is my favorite time. I love the team practices, but seeing the individual work. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like I can teach catching pretty well, but you see me field a ground ball. He won't even invite me to middle infield practice unless I'm just going to be sitting there taking notes and try to teach
that
people.
Needs to be a BAM shorts. It's just you fielding.
Just me fielding.
Adam fielding grounders.
No, I'm not trying to get another concussion. I'm not doing that at all. But I learned so much, even though we're teaching this, and we talk about the mental training. Our coaches have to go through that, and they have to take a test in order to be able to clear to teach it in the second semester. But even though we're teaching this program, I've learned so much from you about middle infielding, so much from Coach Wycliffe and Dylan Clark about the corner infielders, so much that I didn't know, even having a lot of exposure to it, even at the college level. I mean, I felt lost when I walked into some of those things. Yeah. Like, this is stuff I didn't even realize was existing, and I love that part.
Yeah, and it's cool for the players because the young ones have somebody to look up to in those sessions for the older kids. The older kids work harder because they take pride in what they're doing, knowing that the younger kids are watching them, that they have to be an example. And it truly creates a family-type environment where you see each other at the field and you know who we are. Kids say hi to each other. You're not walking past people in the same hat. So it's a cool environment to where it really does feel like a home for a lot of these kids and for these coaches.
17-year-old kids are showing up to 12U games.
Yes.
Just because they want to go watch and see those dudes they saw all winter long.
That's pretty cool.
And I think every other organization, they have no idea who that 12-year-old kid is. They just see another logo that matches theirs, and it's just like, oh, little kids. But that's one of our guys, Sam will recognize, Ty, and be like, I'm going to go watch Ty play.
Yeah. So that's a cool piece from the program side. Partnership-wise, we got hooked up early with Wilson through their line drive program. If you're a newer organization, I would highly recommend working with Wilson. They do a great job. If you're in the Midwest, their rep is awesome. But it was funny because when we met with him, we were just really our 3-team little organization just starting, and those are a dime a dozen. So he, I think, takes everything with a grain of salt for those organizations of just like, how long is this going to be around? Right. Obviously, we'll do business. I'll be cordial.
I think the average lifespan of a new organization is like 2 years.
2 or 3, yeah. So it's been cool to see our rep and our relationship grow as he's seen kind of what we're doing and how we're doing it, because it's so different that watching his reaction to some of it has been a cool way to really judge our own growth with some of the programs that he works with. So we were hooked up with them for a while on the line drive program, and we have since become one of, if not the youngest organizations to be added to the Wilson Premier program. So that was a huge piece for us. Wilson partners on the Louisville Slugger and DeMarini side with a small number of teams nationwide. And we're now one of them. We're the only powered by DeMarini team in the state of Indiana. There's one team in Indiana on the Louisville Slugger side, but that's it. There's just 2 Wilson Premier in the state. So that's grown. We've talked in the past a little bit about our partnership with Diamond Kinetics, how we got into extra innings. We partner with a speed and agility company and a velocity training coach. So we're under no impression that we alone can offer a one-stop shop for our players to get everything that they need.
Right.
So we try to do a good job of, if we can't offer that, finding people who can, and making sure we're partnered with the right people and getting our players the right opportunity to be in front of in order to do that. And that's served us really well.
Right.
So
that's a big part of it too. We're humble enough to say that, like, hey, we don't know how to do this portion, or we don't provide that. So let's go bring somebody in that can. Yeah. It's not just about, we have guys that played in college that are coaching, so we know everything. We don't. We want to find the right way to do it, but we know 100 wrong ways to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it.
For sure. So this year, the biggest growth for us that we were trying to do and figure out, we've been toying with it the last 2 years, was softball.
Right. Talk about something we don't know much about.
Yeah. And you know what? The big reason that we were interested in softball was because as owners here and as people who do instruction, we saw so many softball practices and baseball practices, but we noticed it more in the softball side because we didn't have teams there, so we watched it a little bit closer. But so many practices to where we felt like we were watching for 2 hours and nothing got accomplished. It was just reps of ground balls, but no real instruction and no real direction on how to get better. That we saw a need in that market for what we brought to the baseball side.
Right.
And we had talked about it last year, and it was too close to the end of the year, and we didn't do it. And this year we were able to bring 5 teams over and partner with the Center Grove Lassie League. If you do softball, they do a ton of USSSA tournaments there. It's a great park to play at. But partnered with them for outdoor fields, and all their stuff is indoors. And really what we did is we just took the baseball program and mirrored that for softball. So same positional workout, same mental training, same instruction, and the girls have absolutely thrived in the positional workouts, and we've seen probably larger improvement there than the baseball side, just because they hadn't seen it before.
Right.
So that's been really, really cool to see. We call them FAM for Fast Pitch Academics Midwest.
We're going to call him Sam. But,
we were.
But we don't have to pay royalties to Sam Griffith. So
yeah.
we don't have to do that.
I mean, it made sense for Baseball Academics Midwest to then have softball. And we got to thinking about the fact that we already were calling it BAMFAM, of this idea of a family-type atmosphere for BAM. So to make that FAM made sense.
I feel really dumb that we didn't.
I don't know why we didn't. We've done some really smart things, and taking that long to figure that out was
right under our noses. We probably even talking about it. I think when we introduced it as, I think we might have introduced it as Sam.
We might have.
And I think even under the introduction on our social media, put #BAMFAM, and still didn't find it. I don't, but I think it sounds a lot better, because when people are like, for this new softball group, like, who is that? Like, we're FAM. If you said, we're Sam, like, that's a weird name.
So, and it was so funny seeing some of the differences in baseball and softball, because we had to have a full meeting in regards to what the uniforms were going to look like.
Maybe we should be doing that for baseball.
And there were a couple of girls at tryouts that, when they thought it was going to be Sam, were worried about playing because they didn't like the name. So just the little things that we don't think of. But the biggest translation that we've seen, which has been really, really cool, is when we assign roughly 4 coaches to a positional workout on baseball, we'll have 8 or 9 there. And we weren't sure how that was going to go on the softball side, and we've seen the exact same thing.
Right.
So the culture of coaching and being present and actively engaging with not only your players but all players in the program has really translated well over there. They have a couple rock stars that are doing a lot of the training and really on board with what we're doing that have been awesome to have. And we had a couple people that aren't coaching a team that are just awesome instructors that are helping out in the winter that we're really grateful to
I think that's one of our biggest successes, too, because, I mean, when you're talking a lot about travel ball, one of the biggest gripes people have with travel stuff is that they feel like it's forcing kids into doing something year-round, and that they're going to get tired of it, they're going to feel that burnout, and it's just going to become redundant, and they're going to end up hating the game. I think that we've done a great job, and this is something I'm really proud of keeping it that fun atmosphere and keeping people that they're not getting paid. Our lead instructors for these positional workouts are getting a stipend for that, but these other people are here for 6 hours on a Saturday or on a Sunday when they have so many other things they could be doing, because they're excited about being a part of this. They're excited to learn new things, because it seems that a lot of the other organizations are doing the exact same thing in different colors and a different logo, and the ones that have been around the longest seem to be the ones that are winning the most games, but that might be the only difference. But we're trying to offer something that creates a gathering of people in such a short amount of time. Look how many teams we have in baseball in 4 years. Look how many teams we already have in softball, and the interest level we're having already. We haven't even played very many games, and people are like, who is that? And they say what it is, and they're interested for next year. I love that.
And it's funny because we get the question all the time, and I'm sure every travel team does, of who are your biggest competitors?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to say. On the field, I can tell you who our team's biggest competitors are, who our big rivals are of teams that are same level that are very good. But when you go program, it's really hard to pick anybody, because what we do is just so different when you look at the whole picture of what it is, that it's hard to find anybody else that's doing the same things and say, hey, they're a true competitor. And that doesn't mean that what we do is for everybody and what other teams are doing is wrong. But if you are interested in player development and understanding the game better and transitioning that into an actual physical approach on the field in a family type environment where you're going to be competitive and also grow as a player and have the opportunity to be recruited. I mean, when you put it all together, there's not many that match up to what we're doing.
Right.
So it's funny to answer that question because I don't know how.
Right.
A lot of the times of who our biggest competitor is and
Right.
what that looks like. And I'm also not under the impression that it always has to be a competitive thing between teams. I think there's a right fit for everybody.
Right.
And that's what we've told kids when they've left. Like, hey, if that's a better fit for you, great. And we've had some kids that this wasn't the right fit, and then we've had some that it's the perfect fit, and it's a perfect marriage.
And we by no means root for those experiences when those people don't come here for those to be bad.
No,
it doesn't do us any good for that. We tell people straight up, like you said, if you don't feel like this is a good fit for you, just let us know. It's no hard feelings. We'll challenge you and we'll hopefully beat you once we get out there.
Yeah.
We tell them that we will.
Right.
And we haven't lost in that scenario. But I think hopefully one of the biggest validations that we ever get is with baseball and softball being such slow changing sports, if we start seeing, and I think that we will over the next 5 years or so, other programs that maybe even been around longer than us starting to implement something like what we're doing in the wintertime, that's going to be a validation for what we're doing is working. Because we have a small sample size of what we are. We're not naive enough to say, like, this is definitely working. Yes, it's gaining traction, and people are excited, and they're interested. We've got some good players, some college commits, and we're winning some tournaments. But the longevity of it's what's really going to tell is, and this is why our youngest team that we brought on that first year was 12. And those guys are 15 years old now. What I really want to do is getting this program in the hands of young kids and seeing how they develop over time, seeing how these records change over time, to maybe one day have a kid that from 8 years old till they're 17 stays in a BAM hat. That will be insane. And retention, we talk about it a lot, is the hardest thing for travel sports. And I think this program and how much we change it each year, yet keep it the same and just try to improve it, I think that's what's going to be able to help us in the long run, keeping those kids. Because a lot of these big-time organizations that have been around a long time, kids will get developed by other teams and other organizations and coaches, and once they get to that top elite level, it's hard to keep them. But we have to do a good job of doing that, and I think that we do so far.
And you mentioned the record boards. I think that's something to touch on, but when we created the program, we keep track of everybody's single season, single game, and career stats. We have record boards for all of those single game, single season, and career records, and then we have a Hall of Fame and potential jersey retirement. And those things are voted on at coaches' meetings that we have in place, and there's qualifications for them. And does that help you with college recruiting? No. Your college coach is not going to care if you're the all-time hits leader for your travel program, but it does help you feel a legacy that you're leaving behind, and it gives kids, as they're sitting in here in mental training sessions and they look over at the boards, it gives them a goal and something to shoot for, and something to strive for, because everybody knows what names are up there, and we get questions all the time. Hey, who is this kid? I know you coached him. Tell me about this player. And they want to be that player and that kid. So it's cool to see the legacy that they can leave behind, or the fact that they're really setting goals in comparison to other players that have gone through the program, and to see what those boards look like and that Hall of Fame looks like in 15 years will be a really neat thing for sure. And I know the softball girls are excited about it. They're already asking for their boards. They played like 10 fall games, so we don't have the boards yet. There's nothing to put on there yet, but they're like, where are our boards? What's going on?
I'm excited for that, our next awards night too, to see how many people show up for that. We had our first annual awards night last year, and it had a really good response. And we have a lot more teams this year, and then we have softball. Seeing people show up for that and feeling an importance, not just showing up for you and I because we love it and it's like our life, but showing up because that means a lot. I mean, to see parents, Sam Hinshaw's mom, when he won the Organizational Cy Young Award last year, the look on her face from our point of view when she's standing up taking pictures going, oh, I hope Sam gets it, that was awesome.
It was.
That was awesome. And I think that a lot of, I want us giving a meaning to this, to them. The summers this is a big part of their lives, of playing baseball with teammates and now girls, gaining those relationships. And I think it's real easy to jump team to team and then not have a meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And I want people to want to come back, to want to come to our positional practices after they've graduated and maybe when they're done playing college ball, to want to come back and either coach or just be a part of it in some fashion. And we've already seen that. We've had guys that have graduated saying, hey, once I'm done playing, I want to come coach. And I think that shows, like I said, another vindication and validation of who we are and what we're doing, that people are still interested even after they're gone.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to go live for that awards night this year. We should have last year. We didn't even think about it. But we did organization-wide gold gloves and silver sluggers. And it is not a everybody gets an award type night. But we want everybody to feel special and be awarded for things that they did well during the season. So, again, voted on by coaches. And there were some tight votes, and it was pretty serious. But will be cool to have a picture taken with the BAM and FAM MVPs together, and to cross programs like that.
Right.
Will be a unique experience for all of them to be together. So
that'd be great.
We might need a new location if we keep growing. We're going to fill up that
any
auditorium.
Angel investors that want to help out onto this building, that'd be great.
Yeah,
we have packed it pretty tight in this amount of time.
Awesome.
We're going to have people practicing at 5 a.m. on Wednesdays next year because we're not going to have enough space.
That's a great problem to have, but
it is. But I mean, I think we've touched a lot on where we were, where we are now, and a little bit on what we want in the future. But I mean, we have high hopes for where we're going to go. We have some goals. We talked a little bit about that regional mentality of kind of what we're wanting to do. But I think at this point, I mean, we're looking for organizations that are interested.
We're looking for really two things. One, organizations that are interested in what we have to offer in regards to coaching a 6-tool player, implementing our mental training system and our approach. We would essentially really want the program to be the same of positional and team workouts and mental training, and we would come out and train on all of those things.
Right.
So that's the first. And that doesn't matter size-wise. I mean, we started with 3. You don't have to have a 30-team organization for us to be interested. No. We want all of our partners to be 2 hours away from each other minimum, so that we're not competing for players against another program within the same network. But essentially that's what we want to be. We want to be a network for resources and program outline to basically let you run with it and figure out exactly how that works in that region. And
people that are looking for a direction.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's one thing just to put out open tryouts. Hopefully you fill some teams for some different age groups, and we talked to a few that have 3 or 4 teams, but it's where do you go from here? You know what I mean? How do you make sure you keep players that you currently have, and what are you doing differently from the people around you that are going to make them want to come to you?
And develop coaches and develop yourself as a coach. I mean, that's a lot of what our program is developing the players, but also developing the coaching around them.
We just had a coach that used to be with us last year that texted both of us yesterday that said that he used a lot of our ideas and the stuff that we taught him, and now he just got offered a new head coaching job at a much bigger high school. And so if you're looking to develop as coaches, that's another thing that we're going to do.
That's huge. And the other side to it is, whether you're an organization or a facility, because, we're looking at it in both hats, right, as the BAM owners, but also as owners at Extra Innings. And what it has done business-wise for our facility has been really great to see.
Right.
So there's opportunities. Really you need to hook up with a facility in order to do the winter training anyways. So if there's already programs hooked up with facilities or facilities that are running their own programs, it's a match made in heaven from that sense of being able to really just jump right in and get going. So, what does that look like from our end? All of the mental training will be provided. We'll come out and train over all of that. Uniforms, all those types of things would be essentially the same. There's some prestige with the name at this point nationally, and that helps you get into some of the bigger tournaments. So there's a lot there. I think the biggest thing, if you're just in it for the name, there's a lot of other ones that are looking to go national that would probably be better. If you're in it for the actual training side and you're wanting to develop there, that's what we'd really be interested in.
It's time consuming.
It's time consuming. It is.
And we've had coaches that we thought were going to be great fits, that after a year they're like, okay, I don't really have time for this, and that's nothing wrong with that, But we ask a lot and require a lot. Hopefully down the road we can reward even more than what we are.
Yeah.
But it's
when it comes down to it, we want people who love the game and love developing the players, not only as players but as people. I mean, if our true mission is to take people and players from where they are to where they want to be, and at the end of the day,
keeping that community-based idea of better people, building young and men and women of character.
So one of my goals, and I've literally thought about this so much, is this idea that, let's say we have 4 different locations and all of them go to Grand Park for the amateur baseball championship for 14U.
Right.
And we bring all those teams over to extra innings after and have some food and all the kids get to hang out.
Yeah.
But how cool is it that a 14-year-old kid from Indiana could potentially look at a 14-year-old kid from New York and a 14-year-old kid from Georgia and a 14-year-old kid from Colorado and sit down and say, hey, what's your hitter's count approach? And one of them could say, well, I'm a cut the corners guy, and the other says, I'm middle away. And they all know what they're talking about without ever knowing who they are as people or anything like that. I mean, they're essentially speaking a foreign language to each other about mental training and baseball approach before they ever really get to know each other. And if we can develop that and see that going nationwide, not only is baseball getting better in our program, but we're going to force other programs to do things differently too.
Exactly.
So it's going to get better all around.
I hope that one day we can be big enough to where we have maybe 7 or 8 organizations wide. We go to a big tournament somewhere. We have to, just because of the size, rent some sort of hall at a hotel and have a big, national organizational wide awards night, and just to be able to see that. That'd be a big time. I hope there's one day that we're standing behind a stage, behind a curtain. We're like, dude, we'd rather go do this. And there's all these people that we. Yeah. That's my favorite part about this is the people that it's had us meet. We got it brought us, being best friends. We met Ned Yost, the kind of people that we have on our contact list now, the friends, the people that we have coaching with us, people that I would have never met if we wouldn't have taken a chance on this. And that's a big deal. That's one thing I want to implement in the ideas of these kids is don't be afraid to try something, even if other people think it's crazy. You know what I mean? Stay hungry, stay foolish, all of that stuff. No matter what, go for it. And especially at a young age, take those risks. We could have very easily settled right in. We got offered good money to come and coach for some of these big time organizations that we were honestly beating with the one team that we coached. And it would have been easy. We wouldn't have all this time consuming stuff, but I'm glad we did.
And it's funny because we took the jump and we said it earlier in this of, just ask questions and take a risk sometimes and go with it. And now we're on the flip side of asking people to do the same. But I love that.
I didn't realize that until you just said it.
But I love that.
A little bit of goosebumps.
And I think it's a unique opportunity for people who are really wanting to be in the baseball world and wanting to do this, to have some type of direction and still feel like you have ownership of a program and what you're doing. In the meantime, one of the things that we've talked about and we're willing to do, if you're in an area that you are considering doing this and you really just want to see a little bit more of what it is, we would love to come out to a facility by you guys and do a part mental, part physical clinic. Just a little 2-day, 6-hour, whatever it is, to run through a crash course of mental training and what we do, some of the drills that we use to translate from conscious to subconscious, and just give you an outline of what that program looks like and help introduce it to the players before you make a decision. But, I mean, I think that would be a great stepping stone to get there. We have had some conversations and we'll continue to have more with some different groups in the Northeast and Southwest and Midwest, but we're just looking for the right people. So we're excited about where we are, and the cool part is, and I think we should say this, is if nobody reaches out, and we're forever Baseball Academics Midwest and Fast Pitch Academics Midwest, we're still developing players and doing what we want and making a difference in the lives of these kids. So we're in a great spot. But I think we can influence a lot more, and I would love to do it with the right people that want to do the same thing and have similar passions.
If we could somehow put our own little mark on the game and never make it out of playing in college or anything like that, that's gonna be a pretty cool thing. And changing baseball and changing people. That's what it's all about.
So we hope you reach out. We would love to hear from you guys. And we'll be back next week with I don't know what, topic-wise. I don't remember what's next, but we'll be back next week with more, and we'll be posting some more videos after this weekend's positional workouts.
Look for drill videos that we're posting out daily. Look for BAM Short and BAM Shorts. Look for more podcasts. And just like us on all our social medias on Instagram, Facebook, Baseball Academics / Fast Pitch Academics Midwest. And subscribe on YouTube. That's a big thing. We need more audience there. So,
yeah.
So the origin story, you guys got it. We've already signed a chair, and that's it.
We have. We're
signing
done.
off. Appreciate it, guys.
See ya.